Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustment 4 o'clock meeting on June 14th. If anybody wants to get a copy of a decision, please sign in at the front. I'll start off the meeting by asking if anybody wants to defer an application. After that, I'll call the applications in order. Applicants have 10 minutes to make their presentation. If there are any neighbors here that want to speak about an application, you have 5 minutes. We hear the comments from staff. We may ask questions of applicants or neighbors, and then we go into committee, make our decision, and that's how it works. So call the meeting to order. Does anybody have a conflict to declare? No conflicts? Are there any deferral requests? Seeing none, we'll get right into the agenda. The first application is A24818, the Elia Corporation, 4557 Hurontario Street. Is there anybody here in the audience regarding that application? Okay. You have no objections from staff, so just a brief overview and we'll get to it.
This is an application that has been previously approved by the committee. It's a variance for residential zone setback. It's in a retail plaza. There are numerous restaurants. The reason for the application is there's been a change in ownership of the business, and the committee's previous decision from 2010 had made it personal to a previous business entity. And we're here asking for an approval, and I'm going to request of the committee that the application be approved without condition in light of the commercial context of this plaza, the history, if you will, of the plaza and the number of restaurants that are there. It's proven that this is the type of development, if you will, over the last 15 years that we've seen these kinds of restaurant uses in that location. Should there be residential constructed on the lands to the west, or sorry, to the east of this property, at that point, they will be aware of the commercial existence of this plaza and the uses that are there. And so it's my submission that right now there's no impact, and going forward, anyone moving into that area, should development occur, that it would be existing businesses and existing operations. Those are my submissions. Thank you.
Questions, committee members? Comments, Mr. Kenny?
Yes, the Planning and Building Department, Transportation Works, and the Region of Peel support the application, and that's all the evidence we have.
Okay, ready for a motion? Mr. George?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm prepared to move the application without conditions. I think it meets the 4 tests, and the applicant has justified the position.
Mr. Retrusios?
Madam Chair, I agree with the sentiments that Mr. George gave.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. The next application is 562 Lind, A24918.
Good afternoon.
Is there anybody here in the audience regarding the application at 562 Lind? Seeing none, a brief overview.
Jim Wallace, attending on behalf of the owner of 562 Lind Avenue. This is an application that came before the committee back at the beginning of April, and it was roundly refused by the committee. And so we took your comments back to the owner, and what we've done is we've met the previous variance request for combined side yards, eliminated, and the only variance we're seeking today is for the gross floor area, which has also subsequently been reduced from the previous application. We hope that this application is a little bit more in keeping with the 4 tests, and other than the GFA, there will be no other variances sought, despite the comments from planning. I've already dealt with the roof issue with staff, and the driveway garage configuration is just a technical thing that I can fix on my drawing. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on this one. Other than that, that's all I have on this.
Questions, committee members? Comments, Mr. Kenny?
The Planning and Building Department has no objection to the requested variance. They do note the applicant may wish to defer the application to submit additional information through the site plan approval application process to ensure that all variances have been accurately identified. TNW does not have any concerns with the application. Their concerns are being addressed, if they have any, through the site plan approval process. The Region of Peel has their standard, they're not objecting, they just have their standard note regarding upgrades to service and what is required if they are required. And we have a letter of objection from the resident at 1446 Radcliffe Boulevard. That's all the evidence that we have on this file.
Okay. Mr. Page?
Ready for motion?
Yes.
Move approval of the application, Madam Chair. The request is truly minor. I can't see any massing impact or anything like that with all the work you've done to make your changes. Planning had noted that some relationship to the size of the request being similar to some of the other new builds in the area. It strikes me as it's probably a little bit less, so I think it's very conservative and very well fit.
Mr. Patrizio?
Madam Chair, I'll second the motion. I think the letter in our file from the neighbor on Radcliffe speaks to the water table and so forth. I'm not sure that he's not asking for lot coverage, and lot coverage normally dictates the footprint on the ground, which may or may not affect the water course, whereas here all we're talking about is GFA, which if you were to split it up between 2 floors, you're talking about potentially 100 square foot, and I don't think that's going to have an impact on the water table. With regards to privacy and so forth, again, I don't think that has an impact on what we're looking at here today, so I'll support the motion.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Application's approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. The next application is A25018 at 2601 Matheson Boulevard East. Is the agent for 2601 Matheson Boulevard East here? I'll hold that one down in case they arrive. The next application is 1467 Trotwood Avenue, A25118.
Is that the one?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Marco Vieira.
Is there anybody here in the audience regarding the application? Okay, we do have neighbors here for this one. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. The proposal before you is to demolish the existing 1-story detached dwelling, and we're proposing a new 2-story detached dwelling. We are under site plan approval, and we've made quite a few changes in terms of preparing the submission to Committee of Adjustments to ensure that the variances that were being sought were truly minor. We've reduced the size of the house before coming to the Committee of Adjustments. The 2 main variances that we're asking for, possibly the side yard setback, is taken at the front where we've got the garage, which is 1 story in height. That portion of that, we don't comply with the together the setbacks on both sides. The back portion of the dwelling does comply, and the height is a truss design. It's got a sloped roof all the way around, in which we have a portion in the middle of the house which is flat roof. We believe that the house does fit in the character of the neighborhood. I believe that planning and buildings has no objections, and I ask that the committee approve the application as we've submitted.
Questions, committee members? Comments, Mr. Keddy?
Yes, the Planning and Building Department has no objection to the requested variances as amended. Zoning is asking that variants 2 and 4 be reworded. Rewording is technical in nature, just to clean it up so that it would work for what the zoning interpretation is needed. Transportation Works has no objection to the application. Any concerns or requirements that they have would be addressed through the site plan approval process. The Region Appeal has no objections with the application. They have their standard comments regarding any upgrades to services. We have a letter of objection from the residents at 1473 Trotwood. A letter of objection from the residents at 1463 Trotwood. And a letter of objection from the resident at 1401 Carmen Drive. That is all the evidence we have on this file.
Okay, we have some questions from committee members now. Mr. Kennedy.
I think my question's just been answered. I was going to ask Greg, I was rereading your comments. What you were saying here is that if the flat roof portion was changed by 3%, it would no longer be a flat roof, and therefore the height variance would not be required.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a fine line with this new provision. it doesn't take much for the walls to become fairly vertical when more than 50% of the roof is flat, but it's hard to say, in my opinion, that 3% is going to change the overall aesthetic.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Mr. George?
Yes, Madam Chair. Could we see some elevations, the front side elevations, please?
That's the front elevation facing the street. I see the back as well.
Yes, please.
That's the back portion. This one is the south elevation where the garage is 1 story and the second story portion of the dwelling is pushed further back in line with the extension to the back. That's this area here. And the north elevation as well. You can see that the roof goes all the way through.
Can you just speak into the microphone because we can't,
Sorry, that's better. So the side elevation, the roof, you can see that it basically slopes all the way around the house. It does have a flat roof as part of the truss design. But we feel that in terms of front, back, the features that were created were done so towards the middle portion of the house so that it minimizes the impact in terms of the massing and making it stand up higher than its adjacent neighbors. And we feel that that particular design does fit.
Thank you.
Mr. Patrizio?
Yeah, can you just go back to your site plan? What's the minimum required setback on the garage side because it's a 1-story?
It's 2.1?
So that is your minimum setback?
Yes.
Because
no, that's not what's required.
no, what's required? What's the minimum that's required?
I believe it's 1.8 meters.
Because the only thing I was thinking of is you're asking for, why not shift the house over? You've got the you're asking for 1.8 meter or 8.3 or whatever that may be on the north side, which is a 2-story.
But that's my minimum.
And you've got on the south side, you've got a 1-story garage, and you're more than the required setback from that side lot line. Why not shift that over to what's the minimum requirement and create more of a setback on the north side and come more within line of the 2.41 that's required?
In terms of the aggregate or in terms of the setback on that one side?
The individual. I mean, aggregate, you really can't change it because it's that. But like you've got 2.1, so you've got more than the minimum required setback on the garage side, which is 1 story, and you're asking for a setback reduction on the 2-story portion on the north side. And we've got a letter on file from the neighbor to the north with regards to that setback. Why not try to shift that over a little bit and reduce that side yard setback on the north side? Is there a reason why you've set it up this way?
No, there isn't. If that shifting the house to the south and still comply with the side yard setbacks to alleviate any issue to the north, as long as that doesn't trigger a variance, we have no issue with that.
Yeah, because I mean, from a perspective of combined side yards, I mean, I understand exactly what you need to have the 2-car garage. So at the back, where and it being 1 story, it kind of doesn't have that. You take away that massing, but now you've got it shifted over to the north, where I think you might be able to create some more daylight there and maybe potentially plant some vegetation and so forth to kind of screen the 2 neighbors. And I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not sure if you're able to do that or not, or if there was a reason why you've set it up this way.
No, we were trying to minimize the driveway that we've had in the front, so we kind of extended a little bit on that one side. But if shifting it doesn't trigger zoning issues, I don't think that would be a problem at all.
Okay. Well, I guess Greg can pipe in on that part if it goes into that direction.
Mr. Page?
Well, I'm just going to pile on that. I sort of had the same thought. I was trying to figure out what sort of bothered me about the proposal, and it is that spacing. I mean, I understand what the planners are saying. It just feels, and I'm positive it's going to kind of look massive because it's dominating, the next door neighbor lot. Shifting it over would be brilliant. It would totally change that, I believe I know.
Okay. Okay, well, let's hear from the neighbors next. Do you want to have a seat, sir, and we'll call the neighbors up? I think you can bend it down to your level. There you go.
Thank you. I live at 1463.
1473?
1463.
63, okay.
So I'm on the south side of this property. I want to address.
Could you give us your name, please, as well?
My name is Mary Euler. I want to address all the variances. My major concern is the width variance. To do what the owner is requesting will mean removal of about 21 trees. That's to move it closer to the property. And my concern is, right now, those trees are absorbing all the water that's in the area. With heavy rainfalls and these trees being gone and no vegetation there, it's going to cause floods. And I'm not speaking out of turn, it's happened in the area already. So I'm asking for this variance not to happen, please.
Which variance is it that you're?
This is for the width variance, to bring the house closer to the property line.
The combined side yard
Yes.
width variance?
That's it.
Mr. Page, do you have a question for the neighbor?
Yeah, I just wonder, I look at we have their drawings, and so they've given us a site plan of the existing house along with the location of the trees. Then they've given us a site plan showing the new house and the location of trees. And looking at it, it looks like most of the trees, if not all of them, are staying. They're shown on both drawings. I just wondered, did you have some other information, maybe a survey or something?
The owner actually spoke to me when he first bought the house, and he did say at the time that he would be removing the existing trees, and not to worry, he'll be putting up a fence and he'll replant new trees. That was his conversation with him and I. Now, he did remove a few trees already, which is within the law, the bylaw, which is fine, with the exception of one tree, which I asked him to remove because it had caused damage to my property. And he did do that.
Okay, maybe the chair could get the agent to address that. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Mr. Kennedy?
I was just going to suggest the agent put the site plan back up so the neighbor can show us where the trees are that she's concerned about. So which side are you on, ma'am, as we look at this? The right side?
463. So there's the shift suggestion that you're making.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Should get the agent to compare the existing.
Sir, do you want to come back up? So there's quite a few trees along that side that are showing as being removed that aren't even beside the house.
Sorry, which ones?
We're looking at the plans there, and there's ones with X's starting at the front lot line.
Yes, some of these trees here, with the arborist report, we've applied for forestry, and if they are healthy in terms of being able to stay, we're going to keep them. It's just the ones along the side, once we excavate, I don't know in terms of the viability of keeping some of these trees along the property line, some of which are smaller than 12 inches diameter.
Okay.
The intention is to keep as many as we can. I'm not sure what kind of conversation they might have had, but the same thing along the north side. We have quite a bit of trees right along the property line on both sides.
They do appear to be all on 1467 and not on the neighbor's property.
Right, they are most of them are our trees.
Okay. members? Have we heard comments? Yeah, we've heard comments. Yeah, we have. Mr. Patrizio.
Yeah, I guess you've got to, do you have to go through a site plan process?
Yes.
So, obviously for every tree that is going to come down, you're going to have to plant trees, correct?
Yes.
Is there anywhere on here that, do you have a plan to show where the trees are going to be planted, which ones are coming down, or is this?
Not yet, because we weren't sure in terms of the variances, in terms of their approval, if that was going to affect the house position. So now that we can dictate where we're going to plant them and what kind of trees we're going to plant.
Sir, the comments from zoning indicate that the wording of variances 2 and 4 needs to be revised. Do you want to revise your application?
Yes, please.
Committee satisfied to amend the application? Okay. Ready for a motion? Mr. Page.
I think before we go to a motion, Madam Chair, I wonder if I could just ask the agent again, were you amenable to centering, let's say, the house on the lot?
If Craig can confirm that zoning, the variance is still okay to be moved over, the .3, we would have no objection to doing that.
So the one-story portion would require a 1.8 meter setback. So if they moved it 0.3 from the 2.1 right now, it would comply with the one-story requirements.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's 0.3, is it? Because you're not really just shifting it all the way over. I would maybe suggest just balancing it. Is that what we're talking about? So it'd be 1.5
That's okay.
plus on one side, minus on the other.
On the other side, sure.
May I go to a motion, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would move then, under that situation, subject to the to revision of the site plan. I believe it does meet the 4 tests. I think the shift it helps a little bit with the massing issue that, might have been acceptable. And so for those reasons, as I say, it meets the 4 tests. I think otherwise it's consistent.
Does that amend variance number 5?
Yes, ma'am, it would, wouldn't it?
Like the combined side yards would stay the same?
Yeah, combined would be, but yeah, you're right, to the second story. That would eliminate it, wouldn't it?
Need to have that dimension?
Yes. Well, I think, sure, I think in this case, it's just a revision to the site plan that's pretty straightforward and could be submitted after the meeting, just a revision as soon as possible. Since you're only dealing with, 3 dimensions on here, 4, I guess that need to be revised.
And the dimension you're looking to achieve on the
1.95 on each side, based on this drawing here.
1.95
95. Yeah.
on the 1473 side.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have that, Mr. Kenny? Okay. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Reynolds?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Your application as amended is approved.
Thank you.
So I called the application at 2601 Matheson Boulevard previously, and the agent wasn't here. Have they now arrived? No?
Sorry, that's me bad. The applicant let us know last Friday that they had a personal commitment today.
Oh, okay.
And they've asked for a deferral. I think it was till the 12th or the 19th.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the night. It was the 19th. We can put them on the 19th.
Okay, that's why they're not here then.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Was there anybody here in the audience regarding the application at 2601 Matheson Boulevard? No? Okay. So I think they probably would have, when I called it, would have put their hand up. But. Okay, so the next application is Amicon Development, 4055 Parkside Village Drive.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of committee. My name is Susan Rosenthal. I'm from the law firm of Davies Howe, LLP, and we are representing Amicon.
We'll leave that on. Yep, leave that on.
Leave it on?
Yep.
and just put this on top.
And we have, there's no objections to the application. Is there anybody here regarding the application on Parkside Village? And there are no members of the public here either, so we just need a brief presentation.
I'll keep it quite brief then, Madam Chair. As you can see, this is a large development block, and what we are dealing with right now is Block 9, which is right here. We've already had approval for Block 8 and Block 7, which is a little bit further along, for variances. And in fact, we've had application and received variances for Block 9 as well. Block 9 is immediately adjacent to a park, which is at Block 10, which extends to a park on Block 2, which connects to Zonta Meadows Park. This application was approved many years ago, and at the time it was approved, there were significant urban design guidelines that were attached to it. Those urban design guidelines recognized that from time to time, the project was going to have to be revised somewhat to recognize market conditions and building issues, and recognize that those flexibilities would be addressed through variance applications. And we did that with this block. Unfortunately, we discovered as we were going through the building permit application that one of the setback variances that we had wanted had been missed, and as a result, we're here asking for that additional setback requirement. The plan itself, for your information, had been through Design Review Committee and had been discussed extensively with planning, urban design, and the buildings department. And embarrassingly, we all missed this variance because this plan is no different than the plan that had been through that process.
Just put it so it's facing up for you. Nope, the other way.
That'll be much better. Thank you.
It.
So the issue that we've got before you is that the face that is adjacent to the park requires a 3-meter variance above the podium level, and in fact on that face there is a 0-meter setback, and we are requesting that the application be approved to allow for a 0-meter setback rather than the 3 meters that are required. I would note that the setbacks on the other tower are variable, and they meet the bylaw requirements as varied in our last application. The intention for the structure and the massing as it is to create a gateway building, a really prominent, strong building adjacent to the park, so that there is this ability to traverse it and know that this is one of the strong buildings within the development. There is absolutely no impacts whatsoever. It meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, which recognizes a mixed-use community in this area with numerous towers, some townhouses, some commercial, and this particular block accommodates that. The towers themselves are 35 and 24 stories, with the 24-story adjacent to the park, and there are approximately 600 residential units, as well as 1,235 square meters of commercial on the lands. Because from our perspective, the application meets all of the tests, we would ask that you would approve it. I will tell you that we have been told by planning, building, the urban design, as well as the region, that they are all in support of this application.
Thank you. Questions, committee members? Comments, Mr. Kenny?
Yes, the Planning and Building Department has no objection to the application. Transportation and Works does not object. Any concerns or requirements they have would be addressed through the site plan approval process. The Region Appeal has no concerns with the application. We have a letter of objection from the resident at 4099 Unit 2706 Brookstone Mews, and a letter of objection from the resident at 4099 Unit 3305 Brookstone Mews. And that's all the evidence we have on the file.
I'd already asked, there's nobody here in the audience, so. Committee members? I don't see the letters of objection here anyway. Mr. Quinn? Yes.
I move we accept the application, grant the application. The requested variance maintains the general intent and the purpose of the bylaw.
Mr. Reynolds?
Second the motion.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you. I'll remember how to put this next time.
The next application is 3618 Stratton Woods Gate. Oh, did I miss one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I called the wrong one. Sorry about that. 2353 Glengarry Road. And you're the fellow who's been here since 1:30.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very
Actually,
sorry.
I'm going to start by apologizing to yourself and the committee, and
Very
in particular to Mr. Kenny and Mr. Curtin, because that was entirely my mistake. So, you know, I get to have an afternoon off work. Thanks for your time. I'm told by planning staff that they're recommending an amendment to the variance I've requested, that I should instead be using a single measurement for the width of the driveway at the widest point. Have I got that correct,
Okay.
Mr. Curtin?
Basically, there was some uncertainty as to what the extent of the hammerhead was and where the driveway started and ended. And the zoning staff thought it might be cleaner and easier just to measure from the furthest extent of the hammerhead so if you're looking up the property to the left of the front entranceway, just measure from there all the way to their side of the driveway. It will sound like a bigger number, but if it could just be made subject to the plans afterwards, then it should cover everything off in an
So
easier
we
way.
don't have that dimension right now?
I believe the applicant has it.
Oh, okay.
We spoke before the
Oh, here,
hearing.
okay.
So, yeah, I've just added to the drawing. It's literally the summation, and I confirm the measurement, this 11.11 meters at the widest point.
So variance 1 would get amended to 11.11? Driveway width of 11.11?
Yes, and then variance 2 not required, and then
Variance-
variance 3 should remain the same.
Okay. Committee satisfied to amend the application?
Satisfied, Madam Chair.
Okay. Comments, Mr. Kenny?
Yes, the Planning and Building Department has no objection to the requested variances as amended. The development, TNW has no objections or concerns with the as constructed driveway. And the Region of Peel has no concerns with the application. And that's all the evidence we have on this file.
Okay. Ms. Bertrizio?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was thinking maybe we should hold this down to the end of the agenda. I want some more information. No, I'm just kidding. I'll move approval of the application as amended. I think it does meet the 4 tests. I think it's more of a technical issue with regards to that width of 11.11. I think it's very appropriate for the property, and I would move approval of the application, Madam Chair, subject to the drawings that were presented today.
Mr. Page?
Yeah, I second the motion. This is one of those things where the number looks really, really big, but it's almost meaningless, you know, it's so minor.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Your application is approved.
Thank you very much. For what it's worth, I should say Mr. Kenny and Mr. Curtin were extremely helpful through this process.
Oh, thank you.
What's that?
We never hear that.
There we go. I didn't want to say it before because then, you know, it would look like I was trying to influence things. But now that it's done, they were great. Thank you.
So now it's the application at 3618 Stratton Woods.
Good afternoon, committee chairman and committee members. I'm the homeowner for 3618 Stratton Woods Gate. We've applied for a minor variance to allow for a pool and just a simple garden shed under 10 meters square. We're in a tree preservation zone, but the tree preservation area, we're on the fringe of it, and I think you've seen the pictures that the planning department provided. There's no actual trees in the backyard other than the ornamental trees we planted. We have no intention of taking any trees out. We're not affecting the grading of the land or property at all. And the portion to the left where the pool will go in is just flat grass right now. So looking from the 4 principles, I think meets the requirements, and like your approval for that and open to questions.
Okay. Comments, Mr. Kenny?
The Planning and Building Department has no objection to the requested variances as amended. Zoning notes that it is done a review and that variances 1 and 2 should be replaced with the new wording to permit a tree preservation area identified in Schedule R3-9 to be used for an accessory structure and pool, whereas bylaw 225-2009 as amended states that the tree preservation area shall only be used for conservation purposes, and that no buildings, structures, or swimming pools in any like recreational facilities except fences along the lot line shall be permitted. Transportation Works has no objection to the application. The Regional Appeal has no objection to the application, and that is all the evidence we have on this file.
There is a minor error in the zoning comment. The bylaw number should read 0225-2007 rather than 2009 as indicated in the comments.
Okay.
So that should be amended.
Okay. Do you want to amend your application the way zoning has suggested?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is the committee satisfied to amend? Okay. And I think there's nobody here in the audience regarding this application, because there's only 2 left and 2 people. Okay. Committee members ready for a motion?
Anybody else besides the 2 of us?
Mr. Quinn?
The application, it fits the 4 tests.
Mr. George?
Second motion, Madam Chair. I think it's appropriate.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. The next application is 725 Village Green Boulevard, Moorgard Investments Limited. I think there's nobody here about this one because there's only one other person in the audience. Yes, sir.
Here, please, yeah. He looks like an objector.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ed Waranke. I'm from Queens Corp, here as agent for Moorgard Investments Limited. The application before you this afternoon is to allow a temporary sales pavilion to be located off-site for the purposes of sales of a development across the street. You'll notice in the briefing from staff, comments already indicate that have made a site plan application and a building permit application, and we're at the end of that process. So subject to today's hearing, we'll be able to finish both processes and move forward.
Great. Mr. George?
No, sorry, that was from before.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah, more so for Greg. I thought this is across the street, the Queens Corp on the west side of Cawthron.
The reason is because the bylaw requires that a temporary sales.
No, but I thought they sold out.
No, we did not.
They did not sell it there? Okay, I apologize. I thought you guys, because I know you guys came for a site. Didn't you guys come for a sales site on that site?
We came for a minor variance approximately 2 years ago on the subject property.
Right.
That minor variance was to allow the sales pavilion because the zoning had not yet been approved.
Right. No, and I thought you guys had sold out, so I was wondering why it was...
We're close.
Right.
We're close,
Okay.
but unfortunately, we have to relocate it to allow everything to move forward.
Right, okay, fair enough. I was just more curiosity than anything.
Comments, Mr. Kenny?
Yes, the Planning and Building Department has no objection to the requested variance, subject to an appropriate temporary time period. Transportation and Works has no objection to the application. Their concerns will be addressed through the site plan approval application. The Regional Appeal has no concerns with the application, and that's all the evidence we have on this file.
Okay. Mr. George?
Motion?
Yep.
Maybe just a question first of all. 2-year time frame be reasonable, or?
Sure, that sounds appropriate.
Then move approval of the application subject for a period of 2 years. I think it meets the 4 tests.
Mr. Page?
Second the motion.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And the last application is 1640 Crestview Avenue.
I think we should defer this application for further study.
Were you going to say you had me at hello?
No, I said I was
Okay,
going to come up.
I'll proceed.
I didn't even, I was going to defer it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just very briefly, this property is the subject of a 4-year-old rezoning application that was referred to the OMB. Scaled down originally from 26 units to 20. We had mediation with the city of Mississauga that resulted in a successful settlement. It's a very tight site in that we have this 14-meter MTO setback, which isn't from the actual QEW right away, it's from the service road right away, which MTO owns that section of. So we're losing quite a bit of our site to basically grass. So as we design the site and through mediation in terms of establishing road widths and sidewalk widths and buffer strip widths, we've come to realize that on one particular corner unit, because the site slopes down this way, at the 7.5 meter setback, we are 50 centimeters short on one of our lot widths. And we looked up and down to find a way to make it back, but we just couldn't. We ran out of real estate. So we're here to apply for a minor variance for a deficiency of 50 centimeters. We believe it's minor and meets the 4 test. Thank you.
And that whole area next to the South Service Road is a big grass.
Sorry?
That whole area beside the South Service Road is just.
Yeah, we can't use
a
it for
lawn.
anything. It's just gone, no man's land.
No
Can't even plant trees in it.
landscaping? Nothing?
Nothing.
That's so wasteful.
I know.
Anyway, comments, Mr. Kenny?
Yes, the Planning and Building Department, Transportation and Works, and Region Appeal and the MTO have no concerns with the application, and that's all the evidence we have on this file.
Mr. Patrizio?
Ready for a motion?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'd move approval of the application. I think it does meet the 4 tests, and maybe now with the new government and power, they might allow them to plant trees on that strip. But I think it's minor in nature.
Mr. Reynolds?
I'll second the motion
Any
for the same reasons.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Application's approved.
Thank you.
It was close, but.